1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the Rob Newman podcast.
And we're recording. Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the Rob Newman podcast. 10 questions for 10 people I love. Today, I'm very pleased to say I've got Antony Brinkman of the Will Writing Partnership with us. Antony and myself have been working together now for nearly a couple of years. Antony has some fantastic insights on business, and I always learn as much from Antony as I ever get to give him. Antony, hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rob. Good to be here.
Would you please introduce yourself and your business?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I'm Antony Brinkman. My company is called the Will Writing Partnership, and we're a firm of estate planning consultants. We have consultants, about 40 consultants around the UK, around England and Wales at least anyway. And we help people with their estate planning and their business succession planning. We write wills and trusts and lasting powers of attorney and all that other great, exciting estate planning kind of stuff.
Which it is, and everybody ignores. And I moan at everybody I ever talk to going, have you got a will? Have you got a will? I've seen disasters.
Listen to this man.
Has your business been adversely affected during the last 3 months?
Yes, it has. We felt an impact probably about two and a half, 3 weeks into lockdown. We started to notice the impact on our turnover, mainly because I suppose the fear factor really, we mainly do face-to-face appointments. Our consultants go out and we like to sit with people in the comfort of their own home, in their business environment, if we're doing business succession planning, and that fear factor was there. Obviously there's lockdown and people were in isolation and what have you, but it was an odd thing because of course the nature of what we've all been facing is an increase in awareness of our own mortality, and yet at the same time being able to put the necessary measures in place has been tricky. So yes, we did feel an impact of it. Yes, we did.
Do you think it's going to change your business model at all?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of already has to some degree. Zoom meetings are, in the absence of being able to go and sit with somebody, we have been doing a lot more virtual meetings and telephone meetings, that sort of thing. So we've had to adapt to that because it just was not a thing that we did. It really wasn't, like maybe 1 in 100 we were doing this style before. Yeah. It's just completely reversed,
No, tell me about it.
We had 1 or 2 people out of the last 3 months who went and did a face-to-face. It's totally different.
It's very strange, isn't it? Because similar to you, I've had the same thing. I've gone from being a complete video virgin of never having done this to now spending my entire life sitting on these. And it's a really strange thing to experience, such a rapid leap in technology and process in such a compacted period of time.
Yeah. I mean, things like DocuSign and, all those other technology, they're all there. They have been there for years. It's just we have to embrace them. And that's good. You've got to take the good stuff as well, haven't you?
Is it going to be a significant model difference for you? Or do you see as you start to reopen, you're going to almost revert back to the way you were? Or is it going to take this forward and forever's going to be different?
I mean, I'd like to think that we will take the good stuff and drop the bad stuff. The fact is, it is a personal, the nature of what we're talking to people about is personal. People don't talk about their own death and their own loss of mental capacity and stuff. It's not something that comes up in conversation at the dinner table, So the nature of it is it needs that personal touch. It's not going to go away. Is that I hear a lot of companies in our industry talking about the fact that, this is going to be the way we do business now, and I just don't see that being the case unilaterally across the boards. There's still a big demand for face-to-face and sitting with somebody and maybe not shaking the hand right now, but that'll come back as well, I'm sure. So but we will inevitably take the good elements of this, the fact that people can sign documents remotely. That speeds things up and that it helps the process and eases the otherwise clunky parts of the business.
Can you sign wills remotely?
No.
So what are you getting? Talk me through how a process works for you in terms of like, if somebody wanted to contact you as a business and they wanted to review this, and please do, please, Mr. Clients, look at your will writing, look at your estate plan. How would they contact you? What would they do? What is the process?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's contacting us afresh, first time ever, it would be going to the website, which is twp.co.uk. But then, they'll fill in a contact form, or you see, the majority of our clients come from referrals. The majority of people have done business with us, or a friend, has done business with us, a colleague or what have you, and then they refer on to somebody else. And therefore, usually, actually, the first telephone call, the first contact is a telephone call. Right. But in the absence of that, it would be going to the website, twp.co.uk, contact us, and we would then pick up the phone, get in touch, find the local closest consultant, and put the kettle on. It starts with a cup of tea, the vast majority of the time.
Can you? You cannot be sitting around a table with a cup of tea. And despite all of this stuff, and I mean, it has changed the way we do certain things. Yeah, we're going to do a lot more of these type of calls and these type of things. And video, definitely I'm going to put out more, because I've had a lot of feedback on video it's useful to have a 5-minute bite size on something. But you just cannot be getting around that table talking to somebody.
No, you can't. It's there, and it always will be. So if human beings do business that way, don't they?
Yeah, actually shake their hand at that stage and actually talk to somebody. Yeah,
exactly.
Are you starting to have meetings again at this point in person? Is it creeping back?
Yeah, I mean, we were classed as key workers from the beginning anyway, so there was always that option there. It was more the other side. Most of our consultants were willing to do that safely, and masks and gloves and all the rest of it. But that is just coming back now anyway. As that sort of fear factor lessens and what have you, that we're there anyway. We never closed. We're just now more able to get out and see people, meet people. It's actually the marketing more than the meetings. It's actually been the marketing that's the biggest factor. And one of the things we've changed, we are now far more than we ever were before. Our presence on social media is bigger and better than it was before, and that's helped. That's the definite plus point that we can take away from this.
Yeah. I actually would mirror that. My own experience is very similar. We've gone from practically no presence on social media to actually quite a lot, and have actually been able to start our own marketing through that. I think one of the key things through this for me has been drawing on my own different from business, but to be a business owner is a challenging thing at the best of times. Through this has been very, very difficult. And I've drawn a lot more on my own personal development, my own what's important to me, and simple steps of making sure I sleep and drink water and all those kind of things. If you had one tip as a business owner for a long time, you've been around owning your own business for it's over 20 years at this stage, isn't it? What tip would you give? What tips would you suggest? What steps would you advise business owners to take to improve welfare, well-being, wellness, their ability to cope?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a couple of things really. The first sensible thing that I've learned that I would kind of go back and change, I suppose, as a tip, is take professional advice, and don't try and do it all yourself. It's not, depending on who you are and how you are. And, I have a tendency, for example, to think, well, I'll just get on with it and do it. I'll do it faster than other people will anyway. And my standards are very high. But the more you do that, you're just contracting your ability to grow anyway. You're taking away too many things, and there's great people who are great at doing stuff. You can't do everything, and there's no point in doing everything, just cutting corners and trying doing it all yourself. It limits you, and you've got to rely on other people to do the job.
So it's team building.
Yeah, that team's there, isn't it? It's there to support you. You build that. You build that team. So it's the right word, isn't it? Really, team building is an activity of building a team. It doesn't just happen. You've got to
hell of a thing to pull off, though. Hell of to take those people and develop them and build them is not easy work. No. As much goes into that as to any of the rest of your business. Have you got any top tips on team building for people listening to this?
I mean, I suppose in terms of a management style, not that I'm sort of consciously thinking of, right, I want to develop this management style or that it's not, it's just the way that I manage, I suppose. But I give people a lot of responsibility, and I do that quite early, perhaps more so than they're used to, I think, from my observation. You know, here's your job, here's how you do it, here's a manual. You know, that's the other thing. I said there were two parts of the tip before. The other one is write it down. You know, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're thinking do it yourself, write it down. I mean, I know you've said this is part of what I've got from you is that some great examples of this that you've given.
I am a complete fan and advocate of the EMyth by Michael Gerber. The E in it stands for entrepreneur. It's nothing to do with electronic or email or any of those. If you haven't read the EMyth, why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it, go on Amazon, spend the £2 for a secondhand copy and read it. It is life-changing. It really is life-changing. Gerber is the guy that came out with the work on your business, not in your business. Gerber is the guy that says treat your business as if it is going to become a franchise. It's told around the parable. A woman walks into a pie shop. The woman behind the counter is running around like a headless chicken. And the first woman who's walked in said, "Is this what you expected it to be?" No, I knew everything about pies, but I didn't know that this was what was going to happen. And writing it down is just critical to that. I'd literally say start as well with a pen and paper. I'm not meaning anything fancy. You don't have to have intranets and fancy, just a pen and paper. Write it down.
Absolutely.
That stage, this stage, that stage, do this, do that. This is what you say. This is how you answer it.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I've been quite fortunate in my business career to have worked with some brilliant people and people who've not just kind of muddled the way through it and figured out as they've gone along. There's been some genuinely useful technology, I suppose, management technology and organizational technology and know-how and what have you, which is so simple when you get your head around it. It's so simple, really. But if you haven't had any training of that nature, or you haven't had experience of working with somebody who is organizationally very organized and knows what they're doing and knows how to put procedures and policies in place and so on, you do just end up stumbling your way through it. That is stressful and headachy and limiting and
And there's never any right or wrong way in these things, is there? There's just approaches, and as long as the approach is useful for you, I think it's acceptable to take that on. But so many small businesses just seem to have no structure or no systems, and if Flossie doesn't come in that day, everything stops. And even, I had it today. As I said to you before we started this, I had two people resign today for offers they could not refuse from large firms of accountants. And there's no way I can get near it. The large firms are just offering them crazy money. But that isn't the end of CCM just because they move on. It's a blow. I will miss the two people as individuals because I happen to like both of them. But that's the way it is. We have structures and systems and processes, and you can bring in the next ones and move them forward.
Yeah, exactly. There was something, this is a bit ruthless and I find this very personally difficult, but I read this great little quote about how do you build an amazing team.
Yeah.
And it was talking about the fact that, you get rid of the bad staff and you end up with good staff. You get rid of the good staff, you end up with great staff, and you get rid of the great staff and you end up with this amazing team. And that is tough. That is tough to do on a personal level. It's really difficult. But if a team should be pushed and challenged. People do tend to be way more capable than they give their own self credit for. I've found if they are helped to become the best that they can be, then they rise to the challenge the majority of the time.
Yeah.
But one of the a kind of proud moment for me as a business owner was seeing that happen in my own team. There was these three people in an office, and there was a situation that had come up, and it was a bit of a kind of an urgent situation. It needed dealing with right now. It was one of those right now, drop everything and deal with it kind of thing. How was it physically?
I know them. I know exactly. Yeah. HMRC have just kicked our door in. Come right now, Rob.
This is not put the kettle on time. I was physically in a different And I sent them an email saying, right, this is a right now, get on with it, deal with it, you know, and I had to do a certain task and take them this information. It took me about 10 minutes. I walked down to their office, and there's 3 of them in the office. And I walked in with the expectation that I'm now going to have to ask one of them to just step away from the desk. I'll get in there and do their bit, and then I'll go to another desk, do their bit. And I went to the first person, gave them my information, and looked at what they were doing. They were getting on with what they should be doing, exactly what they should be doing to deal with this urgent situation. Okay, good. Went to the next person, and there's information being passed and a little piece of paper, and it was exactly what it should have been, and actually a bit better than the way I'd have done it. And I was so proud, you know, like that.
So much. That is so proud when you can get that. Yeah. I don't think the people you work with even understand that. If you're the business owner, how proud it is if they actually have that or do something, or it really does feel like, wow, I've actually done something. And it's not, it's a reward in itself. It's not a financial thing. It's not a money thing. It just feels like you've achieved something.
Yeah, totally. It's wonderful. Is that it's like you say, it's not necessarily. It does pay dividends, doesn't it, financially? When you've got a team that's that well, all the wheels are well oiled, and you know, it does. But yeah, it's satisfying as well.
I know you have the Will Writing Partnership, and you help people plan the estates. But I know you've got a lot of other interests and a lot of other things that you can do. Implementing some of what you've talked about there, is that something you could help small businesses do? Are you at that stage where you can get involved in things? I mean, you always told me an example of a person you spoke to and created significant value in their business. Would you share it with us on this podcast? And B, is that something you can then go on and help other people with now? Is it something you're interested in doing?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a number of hats that I wear, if you like. The first is the estate planning hat with the Will Writing Partnership. I run the company, but I don't really draft wills anymore. I don't particularly see clients that often. You know, that's a limited job. As a business owner, it's implementing the know-how that I've got that I mentioned before, and growing and expanding that business to the best of my ability. But then outside of that, within the estate planning industry, I wear a couple of other hats. I volunteer my time as the chairman of the the Regional Society of Will Writers chapter.
That's quite a commitment.
It takes
it's quite a commitment. Yeah.
And the other one is I'm also the chairman of the Professional Standards Board for the Society of Will Writers for the industry, and again, that's quite a significant investment of time. But I do that because I believe in it, and I believe that this industry is extremely valuable. It's undervalued, and I want to sort of rise the standards that there are in the industry and help other estate planners to achieve the best that they can. But then outside of that, there's then this other hat, I suppose, which is the one you're referring to, about helping other business owners, which in the main has been done almost on a voluntary basis as well, historically, although recently there's been, because there are demands on my time, I've had to kind of charge for that. And I love it. I enjoy that. That's again, immensely satisfying to see help given to another person when it's been taken on board, utilized, and then they've seen the benefit of that. The example that you were giving there was a chap who it was an electrician. Fundamentally, he mainly dealt with alarms, alarm fitting, fire alarms and burglar alarms, that sort of thing. And I was doing his estate planning for him, was doing his will and powers of attorney, and I was asking him about his business. You know, what's the value of your business? This is an asset, and you will be passing your asset on to your children. And what's the value of this asset? And he didn't think he had any value whatsoever in his business. One-man band. He was, you know, in business for 25, 30 years or whatever. And he showed me this book, this A4 book with all of these clients going back historically over 25, 30 years. And I was looking at this piece of gold that he didn't realize that he got, you know. And I just gave him a few tips, a few bits of advice, and we spent about an hour looking at the potential value of his business. If he just changed this and tweaked that and did the other, and about 5 years later, he contacted me and he said, Anthony, I need to update my will. I've had a few changes in circumstances. What's happened? He said, well, I sold my business a few months ago. Oh, brilliant, Steve. What did you get for it? He said, well, I ended up getting £670,000, which was just phenomenal compared to this zero that he thought he had before. And he actually did what I said. And yeah, it's brilliant. There's been quite a few examples of that, which is, it's very personally satisfying to see that come to fruition. And yeah, that is something I can help people with, of course, as part of their business succession planning as well as personal estate planning. Yes. Yeah.
And I would urge people to take that up. It's amazing what value actually sits in businesses. I've seen it over the years. My own one is, I use an example. I once sold a sellotape round. This guy went corner shop to corner shop selling sellotape. I got £10,000 for it. This guy thought it was worth nothing. The £10,000 was because a large corporate wanted the database. That was it. They weren't going to be selling sellotape, but they wanted the database that this guy had built up over the course of 10, 15 years. They'd been selling sellotape. And 10 grand was a lot of money to him at that time. Let's face it, it's not money to anybody, but you know what I mean? I know it's not the 660,000 that your fella got, but it's amazing what's there and people don't realize it.
It is.
Just by going through a process, you can help significantly.
Exactly. It's quite a therapeutic process as well, actually. You find it's really a task of establishing what the goal is, that end goal. We can all get into the habit of just turning up for work. You turn up for work and then you turn up for work and then you turn up for work, and it ends up being your goal is to turn up for work the next day, and it goes, doesn't it?
Believe me, sometimes that's quite an achievement.
Exactly. But yeah, it goes back to those. Why did you get in business in the first time? In the first place, what were you looking at? Like the pie lady. Was this the dream that you envisaged? Not really. Because you didn't up for work.
Yeah.
Or didn't know how to not turn up for work and actually push forward and give that to somebody else. And that know-how is there. It's there. Yeah, it's achievable and available.
Nigel Bottrell has a great phrase for it. He says, you get stuck in the weeds. And it's so easy to get stuck in the weeds, and you've got to get out of the weeds before you can actually move forward on anything. I think it's a brilliant turn of phrase.
Yes, it is.
Getting stuck in the weeds. I do like that one. So on this vein then of things you've achieved, what is your proudest professional achievement to date?
I mean, there's the example I gave before. That's a sort of personally satisfying, observing the team that you've built doing a job better than you could ever do it, and doing it efficiently and well, and just like, that's wonderful. It's nice to be recognised externally to your own self and your own staff and your own team and all the rest of it. And therefore, we've won a few business awards. They're always very proud moments when somebody else recognises this is a great company, For the will writing partnership to be there up in lights, and that's great. That's great to see that. But then I suppose the other. And there are several of these. It's a bit like that example I gave you of the electrician guy. Those are just, those moments are brilliant. You see the results of what you've actually done. I mean, those are terrific moments. You see this. I mean, obviously we're dealing with this strange subject of death and all this kind of thing, but when the kids contact you and, they say, my dad's passed away, and you did the will back then, and you see how easy it is, and they thank you for all that you've done. That's terrific to be recognised on a very personal level as well. Yeah. That's great.
I think that must be. I mean, without bring it directly to your business, I have seen situations where people have no wills, estate planning, anything in place, and the absolute mess families end up in at some of their hardest times and hardest moments. They're in their most emotional state, in just chaos, and they can access nothing and they can do nothing, and they're just stuck. It must be an achievement. Yeah. You see it. It must be.
It is. It's one of those which you're removing the negative. Therefore, you're removing that pain and anguish and upset at already horrific times. You're removing that from what the family would otherwise experience. So it's sometimes not necessarily recognized for what it is, which is goes back to what I was saying before about the industry as a whole kind of undervaluing itself almost. That the service that we do is tremendously important. Excuse me. It's enormously important and not always recognized, because when it's done well, you don't see it. It's like a good, I don't know, waiter or something. You don't see how great that waiter is because he's doing a damn good job.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm going to flip it. So if that's the best stuff, what's the one mistake, the one negative that has happened, you've experienced that you'd like to change?
I think that would have to be the not having taken professional advice. Where you've gone down a route thinking, right, I'll just do it myself, or I'll handle this, or you've made mistakes of taking the wrong professional advice, because he's a nice guy, or
I've had that
she's
one.
really pretty, I'll take her advice, or whatever. That's being sensible about it. It's that getting good professional advice from the right people who know exactly what they're doing, and having established that they know what they're doing first. I'll give you a negative example of it. Was years and years ago, a different business actually than this one that I was running at the same time. And it was back in the early days of websites, where websites doing funky stuff was very new. They just didn't do funky stuff. They had text,
or a brochure,
pictures, And I wanted it just to do a few things that were a bit beyond the norm at that point in time. And there was this guy. He was a great guy, nice guy. I would have happily had a pint at the pub with the guy, but was he good at what he did? I accepted his advice and paid him for the advice and the work that he was going to do based on him as an individual, his personality. I should have done the obvious thing and look at his website, which was rubbish. Learned my lesson, and I've learned that lesson several times, sometimes in a hard way, but that's the things that I would change, is not getting the right advice from decent people, proper people who knew what they were talking about and were very, very good at what they did,
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. Yeah. Lawyers has always been my one. Yeah. In a similar vein, finding the right ones. When you find the right lawyer, hold on to them. Eventually got there, but that's a different conversation on a different day. Yeah. I know you're really busy. I thank you so much for being on here. I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
In your industry, if you could change anything, what would it be?
Ooh. I suppose if there was a sort of magic wand to change the industry.
That's what I'm talking.
Yeah, it would be. It would be almost a sweeping rise of the standard of estate planning. I talk from the viewpoint of wearing those different hats in the industry and seeing, not, we can turn up at a person's house and we can, they say, oh, I've already made my will, made it a few years ago, and they get it out and you look at it and say, oh my God, this is shocking. This is bad. How could this be acceptable to anybody, any professional capacity, that would be immensely helpful to raise the general value perception of what we do, and also to raise the perception, I suppose, of estate planners who are good quality estate planners. There are some terrific people, terrific solicitors and estate planners out there that do this job very, very well, and they need to value themselves for what they do, and the quality of what they do is so helpful to people. It does change lives for the better. I suppose it would be this sweeping rise in standards across the whole industry.
Well, let's hope it happens. Let's hope it happens. Antony, one last thing for you. If people do want to contact you and talk about this, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Well, the website is twp.co.uk. And the telephone number is 0161 705 4382. We've got human beings at the end of the phone. The website, we respond fast and pick up the phone, and we'll speak to you, anybody. It is a conversational start point. We'll just get together, have that cup of tea, and let's see where we go from there.
Fantastic. It's been so good talking to you. Thank you so much for appearing.
Likewise.
That's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. That's the Rob Newman podcast, 10 questions for 10 people. Thanks a lot. See you again soon.
Thank you for listening. Please remember that all of the views and opinions expressed by Rob are personal opinions and not professional advice.